Okay, so this is Hardware, our leader. Welcome, Hardware.
What's up?
So that's an interesting name, Hardware. How did you get that name?
Well, I usually have two names, one for the hack and slash Knights in Armor and one for sci-fi. But when I went into SWG, Hardware became such a popular name that I pretty much use that exclusively now. I actually got it from the old cartoon. What is that? Back maybe in the 80s or so. That was the Silverhawks. And it was the little goblin guy that had a backpack that had everything in it. And his nickname was Hardware because every time he unraveled the backpack, he came up with a ginormous gun or a lockpick or something to fix a tank with. Hardware just stuck, and I used it as a CB handle and used it as a gaming handle.
Awesome. Okay, do you want to tell us your real first name? If not, make one up.
I could say Bob, since there's always a Bob, but my real name is Scott.
And this is going to be a complicated question. How long have you been with the Dermenhoth clan?
Let's see here. Long time. Going on over 20 years now. 93.
And I should interject then. Actually, since you're the leader, and I do love this story, could you go into a little bit about how the clan got developed?
Well, the clan originally was developed when I was playing an online MUD, which is a multi-user dimension back in the day, before there were graphics games like Meridian and Ultima Online. It was like I said, a text-based. You walk into this room, you can go east-west, open a door type of a thing, and it was called the Two Towers. I played several other ones. There was a BattleTech one. There was a sci-fi hacker type one, but I like Lord of the Rings. It was called the Two Towers. Happened to get into it. It was in a beta type of come play and test it. I was in college to be a cop, and there was a quote-unquote sheriff profession that they were trying to get where you could actually handcuff people and whatnot. But the more I had gotten into online gaming, and that was the first exposure really to online gaming was my freshman year in 93 with other people. And the more I liked doing it, the more I liked killing people instead of quote-unquote arresting them. And I kind of hung out with a group that were considered kind of assassins. And when the game, I should say the online MUD was released, they had 6 original character classes or factions, however you want to put it. But they were all guilds that were revolving around Lord of the Rings time period. One of them was an Assassin's Guild, one of them was a Fighter's Guild, one of them was a Sheriff's Guild, there was a few other ones. And if you found the guild hall, I should say, on the map, which nobody knew where they were at, you were allowed to name it. And so my guys, we probably had about a good 30, 40 people at the time. We set out into the woods. I can't remember exactly where on the map of Middle-earth it was located, but we came across it, we went over, and I had absolutely no idea what to name it because I kind of wanted it to be thematic. They definitely wanted it to be thematic to an extent. And so there was a guy that was one of the overlords. His name was Rakuo. And I'm like, what the hell should I name it? He's like, well, what is it going to be? I'm like, well, it's an Assassin's Guild. So we're evil. We're blessed by Morgoth. And we're a group going around assassinating and killing people. So he kind of hemmed and hawed for a minute. And he actually came up with Dermenhoth, which is Dark Elvish for Evil Blessed Horde. And the blessed part is obviously from Morgoth, which is the Valar that started Sauron and all the evil that was in Arda. Anyway, so was the Dermenhoth. It was not a clan, it was just Dermenhoth at the time. When I got out of college in 97, got my first job, actually hooked up with Wolf, who was on the job at the time as well. And we were looking at this whole new thing in online gaming that had graphics. And you could actually play with people. So Wolf and I were talking, and we decided to get Ultima Online. And we did. And I'm like, what the hell do we want to name our guild? I'm like, well, I had the guild in college. Let's just go with it. So we called it the Dermenhoff Clan. And from there, it was pretty much born into the graphical online community, and then we went to SWIG, SWG, and several others after. But that's the long, drawn-out version that everyone's sleeping now of where DC actually originated and how it was named.
I always liked that story. I especially liked the part when you met Wolf.
I'm sure you did.
All right,
Go
everybody.
ahead, Cal.
Thanks for
Sorry.
participating. Have a good night.
I'm sorry, Cal. Go ahead.
All right, let's see. That was an awesome answer. What question are we on here? Oh, what is your current rank in DC, and what jobs do you do?
Well, my current rank is Overlord. It's been pretty much the rank title since its inception, because Lord of the Rings, there were lords and overlords and stuff like that. So that's actually where it originally titled from. Otherwise, if it would have been Star Wars, it probably would have been Emperor. Or if it would have been, another game, it would have been whatever was thematic to that. But Overlord originated with the Two Towers, and it just kind of went from there, because it's the clan that I made a long time ago, but I want to have other people help run it or run other areas of it in other games. So I will always be, the overlord, but then there can always be other people running other games with, the normal, general or whatever they want to call themselves, without there being any kind of a pissing contest as far as, ranks and all that garbage. But it's overlord, and that's where that rank came from.
Cool. And the second part of that is, what jobs do you do?
Generally speaking, I pretty much just kind of get everybody together, facilitate the websites, facilitate the team speak, facilitate the information on some of the games that we're going into. The way it more or less starts out is I kind of have my hand in everything because I'm that way. But as people kind of progress and the game starts getting more interesting and more people want to do stuff, then you kind of, delve out the responsibilities. We try to tackle everything from crafting, which I know nothing about, so I always look immediately for whoever can craft and take that part over, because I pretty much can cut grass, that's about it. There's the PvP aspect, so I always try to find somebody that's good with PvPing and is a strong PvPer. There's PvE, which is the dungeoning and raiding, and so I try to find somebody that can do that. And then I try to take a seat and step back and let that person run that aspect. I just make sure that everybody stays on task. If we're trying to get to this level of the game, or we're trying to get to this level of the game, I'm constantly pushing those in charge of that aspect of it to try to meet that goal. And then if and when we meet that goal, I try to push them to the next one. Pretty much just like a whip.
And what is the very first computer game you ever played?
The very first computer game?
Yeah, we'll go with we'll skip the Atari and stuff like that, but like on an actual PC or Macintosh.
Well, there's two answers to that question, in all honesty. Kind of three. Back in the early 80s, because it was before my parents moved, so it was before I was 11. My dad actually had it was like a typewriter that had two suction cups on it, and you would plug the rotary phone into the suction cups, and you could dial into my dad's office computer. It was like the first online thing, like almost ever. And my dad would dial into his office server, and we would play a game that was obviously text-based that was called Adventure. And how that worked was it had thermal paper. It's like printer paper or fax paper, but it's the kind that heats the lettering into it. It's very flammable and crappy and spirally, but it would print out the words instead of it being on a screen. So it would take 5 minutes to go to a damn room, and then if you didn't like that room, it'd take you 5 minutes to back out. But that was the very first game I ever played on a computer, so to speak, online, ever. The other game that I played shortly thereafter that I guess you could call graphical but not was a game called Rogue. And that game used the keyboard keys as the characters in the game and the map, like the @. On the 2 key, that was your body, that was your person. A and little a, B and little b, all of the letters were monsters, and they were all taken from the original Series 1 Dungeons and Dragons monster manuals. They had Yetis and Eye of the Beholders and stuff like that. Then the rooms were like the pipe and the backslash. The water was the tildes. The periods were the spaces in the room. So if there was 12 periods in a row, there was 12 spaces to go forward. 5 periods down, 5 periods down. Commas, I think, were treasure. It just used the keyboard. So it was semi-graphical, but not. And we played that through my dad's server as well, and that was the very early era of dial-up. But PC, where it was graphics, not necessarily online, but I think the very first game, because my dad's a little off, though a great guy, I played was Leisure Suit Larry. That, I think, was my very first PC game ever. And then from there I played all the Sierra, Knight's Quest, Dragon Quest, Heroes Quest, Police Quest, and all of those. And then once I got into the whole PC thing, it kind of took off from there.
Cool. All right. So, wow, that's old school. What was the first computer game you played with DC?
Well, again, I guess that would be a trick one. It would either be the Mud, that would be the text base, or the very first one that we did that was graphical with little people and whatnot. Third person point of view was Ultima Online. That's what I played with Wolf back in 97, actually. November, December 97.
And zoom into the future now. What game or games are you currently playing?
Well, right now the wife is playing a lot of SWOTR, so I bounce back into there and play some SWOTR. The guild is we were gearing up, but it's been a long process, so we're kind of in tread mode or treading water mode. But the repopulation is kind of one that we're looking towards down the road. Those are kind of the main ones. Some of the guys are playing H1Z1. I've popped in there a few times, but I get lost without a GPS, so I pretty much get lost in that game without anything. Otherwise, lately I've had a bug in my ass for the strategy games off of Steam and the squad-based games off Steam like XCOM, Civ 5, stuff like that, just to pass the time.
Okay. All right. So, what is the most memorable moment you've had in DC?
All my answers seem to be about 20 minutes long, but I've had hundreds of good times and memorable moments with DC. The one that always comes to mind as one of the biggest, besides when we first started doing the base rating in Star Wars Galaxies, was we had a battle called the Battle of Olympus. What ended up happening, the short version is we all took to a guild called Star League on Loke. Loke only has one starport to get off the planet. And Star League is in the far ass corner of the entire map. So we take a good 50, 60 people to Star League's base, along with a good 10 or more contingent of Jedi, or Dark Jedi, one of which being Duxon, which was kind of our Darth Vader. And we set siege to Star League and start beating their ass. Well, unfortunately, there was a turret placement bug that when we took the turrets out, all of a sudden they started popping turrets up behind us. And we got cornered, and we got surrounded, and none of our Jedi had ever died, especially Duxon had never died. And pretty much everyone shit their pants, and we took off. We used most of our main force as meat shields to let the Dark Jedi get out so they wouldn't die and take a death, because there were penalties for Jedi. You'd lose a box of experience, stuff like that. So we all meat shielded to let the Jedi get away. They all did. They met at a safe house that we built pretty much at 0-0 on Loke, and they all logged off there. And we spent a good half hour trying to figure out what the fuck we were going to be doing to get them off planet, because by the time they made it to the safe house, there was a good 100 or more Republic between Loke and Star League City looking for them and blocking us from leaving the planet. So instead of everybody keeping logged off and pulling their skirts down and calling it a night, we decided to say, F it, let's fight our way out, and whatever happens, happens. So once we decided that, we got our buffers to the safe house, we loaded our primary contingent, everybody cloned at a city called Olympus, and because most of our guys cloned at Olympus, the Dark Jedi started making their way. And we had to fight with a cloner on our back because we were outnumbered and we couldn't shuttle anybody in. So we were looking at probably about 70, 80, 90, 100 rebels. I mean, it was a significant amount versus ours. And we fought from Olympus. It took probably about an hour of fighting in Olympus across the river, which we have pictures of, before their line broke. One of our guys, his name was Dark Warrior, was helping lead the charge, and he observed that there was a break in the left side. So I told the main part of the guys to start heading to the left side to break their sides and their flank. We did. They broke. They ran. We moved off the cloner, and we made a dash for the starport while the guys that we had killed were rebuffing and whatnot. A good portion of their force was down. So we go heading up to the starport. As we come up the hill, there's tons of people waiting. And we just said, F it again, charged in, and within about 30, 40 minutes, I mean, this is over a 2-hour span from start to finish, but within about 30, 40 minutes, we had cleared the starport. Massive casualties, none to our Jedi, and we were able to safely get the Jedi off planet, and we all went back to Naboo. And we were called exploiters and hackers and cheaters because we were able to accomplish it, and it was a feat, something that I would akin to what Leonidas did with the 300. I mean, we were massively outnumbered, but we beat their ass in, and we got off planet legitimately without logging off for the night and waiting for them to leave. And that was a very cool flexing moment for sure.
And long answers are good. We like long answers, don't we, Cal?
Yep.
And it's good to. I love that question because it's good to hear how games affect people like that. But speaking of games, when you're playing, what do you think your strongest attribute is when you're playing a game?
I guess, without being tripe with an answer, I guess it's pretty much the leadership. I'm a decent PvPer. I can't boil water to craft shit, to be honest with you. And I enjoy raiding because I enjoy my guys, but I am not a raider by trade. I will hit any dungeon at any time, die 50 times over, and want to punch a monitor, where true raiders will do it 100 times and not care. But I guess my biggest thing has always been getting a good group of guys together, getting a good leadership core together, and finding a game and beating it up for a while. That's kind of my thing.
Okay. Well, this next question is a little weird, but it could happen. If you were all of a sudden overlord of the DC Dermonhoth clan, what are some of the changes you'd make or things you would like to see?
Well, gee, if I was the overlord, I would build a time machine and suck most of us back 10 years. That way we didn't have 500 kids and mortgages and cars and jobs, and we were able to spend 12, 16 hours a day online again and play games like we used to. But, right now it's just a matter of I just want to get guys zoned in on one game. There's so many people playing this, so many people playing that, so many people not seeing enough people playing one thing or another, so they're just not even around right now. I would just like to try to get everybody singled in on one thing to kind of hold everybody's attention until the next best thing comes out.
That's a good segue into this next question, and that's what online game would you like to see more DC members playing in? And that can be, past or future.
I'm hoping for a good turnout for Repop. That's kind of where all the eggs are in the basket, so to speak. It's going to be a game that is very familiar to our clan as far as playstyle. Massive crafting, massive battles, massive cities. That seems to be more conducive to the guys and what they like to do. For right now, though, I guess I'd like to see them, in whatever game that we can pull out that people like. We have several people playing SWOTR, and we have several people playing H1Z1. Whichever game a large amount of people would come back to, I would jump into and throw all the support and try to get everybody to come over to it. It's just nothing's out there right now to grab people like it used to. The next biggest thing kind of stopped with WoW, which is a shame because the WoW babies kind of screwed the whole online community as far as gaming style, in my opinion. But I think there's some good stuff coming down the road, and I think we'll be able to pull everybody back together for it.
Okay. All right. So, moving forward, what is the official DC greeting?
Death comes to us all. If you're
Greeting.
not DC, it just comes sooner.
Okay, we'll switch those questions. You go with the other one, Wolf.
So that one's the motto, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I think with the original one was when we're in game. I think that's the key there. The key thing is when we're in game, how do we officially greet each other?
Hail, whatever your name is.
Okay, and this is another question that I've added. Who is your favorite Sith Lord? I already know what you're going to say.
Oh my god. My favorite Sith Lord. I can tell you who it isn't. It sure as hell ain't Revan.
That's acceptable.
Oh God. Well, I mean, everybody knows I'm a ginormous fan of Marka Ragnos. Kind of the start of the Sith Empire in its calm yet destructive form. He was able to keep everybody in tow, yet cause a nice swath of destruction. Obviously, there's several others of great note after him. But, yeah, and I'm sure that's who you're going to say but Marka Ragnos probably would be my first pick.
Okay, going into DC Pop Quiz. You have 30 seconds to answer each of these questions. Starting now, when was DC officially formed?
93.
Name the 2 highest ranking officers in the guild.
Well, that would be Hardware, Lahira, and or Nyrus, depending on what you consider a rank.
Hardware and Lahira, that's correct. Out of all the DC members, who do you think has the biggest wiener?
Well, obviously that's me.
Who was
Hardware?
Who was our main enemy in Star Wars Galaxies?
Our primary enemy was always MES because of the bases. Our non-really city-holding enemy was Law.
Both are acceptable. Spell Dermanhoth Clan.
DURMANHOTH.
Well, we want to thank you, Hardware, for the time you spent giving us these answers. These are good. This is good stuff. Do you have anything you want to add to end?
For everybody that's watching, that's DC. Come on back to TeamSpeak and hang out and say hi. Visit the forums and say hi. We still want to hear from you. Keep in mind Repop. Keep in mind H1Z1. Keep in mind Swoder for now. And otherwise, keep in contact. Stay on the forums, and we'll kill some people soon.
Thank you, Overlord Hardware, for participating in Get to Know Your DC member. You have won absolutely nothing. Keep honing those noobs.
Oh.